Have you ever promised yourself, "This time I'll change," and then watched that promise quietly disappear? Not because you're lazy, but because life simply pulled you back into the same old pattern? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail to build habits because they lack motivation. They fail because they don't understand what a habit actually is. The book, The Power of Habit, explains something that sounds simple, but changes everything. Habits are not random. They follow a hidden structure, a loop, running under your daily life like invisible code. And today, I'm going to show you how to rewrite that code. Not with hype, not with grind-set energy that burns out in 3 days, but with a system that makes good habits feel inevitable. Let's start with the core idea. A habit is a loop with 3 parts: cue, routine, reward. A cue is the trigger. A routine is the behavior. A reward is what your brain gets out of it. And the reason habits feel so hard to change is because your brain loves efficiency. When something repeats and gets rewarded, your brain basically says, "Perfect. I'll automate this." That's why you can end up scrolling without thinking, snacking without noticing, procrastinating without deciding. You don't choose the habit anymore. The loop chooses you. But here's the best part. If a habit is a loop, then you can edit the loop. And I want you to imagine this like a locked door with 3 keys. Most people try to break the door down with willpower. It works for a day, maybe 2. Then they get tired. But if you find the keys, cue, routine, reward, you don't need to break the door. You just open it. Evan wasn't undisciplined. He was actually smart. He cared about his future. He had goals. But every afternoon, he would sit down to study. And somehow, without even noticing, he'd end up on his phone. He tried everything. He deleted apps. He installed blockers. He made schedules. He even tried the 5-second rule, counting down like a rocket launch. And it always ended the same way. 2 days of focus. Then 1 small break. Then the whole week gone. One night, Evan looked at the clock, 1:40 a.m., and felt that familiar wave of disgust. Not at the phone, at himself. That feeling is dangerous, because when people start believing they're broken, they stop trying. So the next day, instead of promising himself, "I'll be disciplined," he did something different. He got curious. He asked one question. What's the cue? Not, "Why am I weak?" Not, "Why am I like this?" Just, "What triggers the loop?" So he watched his own behavior like a scientist, and he discovered something shocking. He didn't scroll because he was lazy. He scrolled because he felt a specific sensation right before it happened. A tiny discomfort. A restless itch. It usually hit about 10 minutes after he started studying. The moment the work got slightly hard, slightly boring, slightly uncertain. That was the cue. Not the phone. Not the apps. Not bad discipline. The cue was discomfort. So Evan wrote it down. Cue. The moment studying gets uncomfortable. Now the routine was obvious. Grab phone, scroll, escape. But the reward was the mystery, because your brain doesn't repeat a habit unless the reward matters. So Evan tested it. When the cue hit, he didn't grab the phone. He got up and walked to the kitchen. Same cue, different routine. And he asked himself, what am I actually craving right now? At first he thought, entertainment. But after a few experiments, he realized it wasn't entertainment. It was relief. Not pleasure. Relief. The reward was, my brain stops feeling uncomfortable. That's why even boring scrolling works. It doesn't need to be fun. It just needs to numb the feeling. And that's when the whole habit-changing game became clear. Evan didn't need to destroy his phone. He needed to give his brain the same reward through a healthier routine. This is one of the biggest lessons from The Power of Habit. You don't erase a habit. You replace the routine while keeping the cue and reward as close as possible. So Evan designed a new routine for the same cue. When discomfort hits, he does a 30-second reset. He sits back. 1 deep breath in, 1 deep breath out. Then he writes 1 sentence. What is the next tiny step? That's it. But the point is, the routine gives his brain what it wants: relief, not by escaping, but by making the task feel smaller. And the first week was ugly. He still failed sometimes. But something changed. He wasn't confused anymore. He wasn't fighting shadows. He was working with a map. And that map is what I'm giving you right now. So let's turn this into a system you can use today. Something practical. Step 1. Identify your habit loop. Pick 1 habit you want to build. Just 1. Don't start with 10. 1. Now define. When does it happen? Where are you? What time? What emotion shows up? Who's around? What do you do exactly? What do you get from it? Relief? Comfort? Control? Dopamine? Approval? Escape? And here's a powerful trick. When you don't know the reward, test different rewards. If you're trying to stop mindless snacking, for example, your hunger might actually be stress relief, a break, boredom, a need to feel cared for, a need for stimulation. Different reward, different solution. Step 2. Make the cue obvious. If you want a new habit, you need a reliable trigger. Because the brain loves patterns, and a consistent cue is like a green light. Instead of saying, "I'll work out more," say, "After I brush my teeth, I do 10 squats. When I sit at my desk, I open my notes first. When I make my morning drink, I read 1 page." The magic word is after. Attach the new habit to something that already happens. Because you're not relying on motivation anymore. You're using structure. Step 3. Make the routine easy enough to start. Your brain has 1 job: save energy. So if your habit feels like a threat, your brain will resist. Make the entry point ridiculously small. Not because you're weak, because you're smart. A small start creates a win. A win creates momentum. Momentum creates identity. And identity is the real engine. Because sooner or later you stop saying, "I'm trying to read," and you start saying, "I'm a person who reads." That shift matters more than any productivity trick. Step 4. Make the reward immediate. This is where people mess up. They pick habits with rewards that are far away. Study now, benefit later. Work out now, results in months. Eat healthy now, feel better in weeks. But your brain is built for now, so give it a reward that happens immediately. After studying 10 minutes, mark an X on a calendar. After working out, take a warm shower and let it be part of the ritual. After writing, listen to 1 favorite song. After meditating, drink a tea you love. Is that childish? No, it's human. Your brain learns through reward. That's how it works. And this is where craving comes in, the deeper layer. A habit strengthens when your brain starts craving the reward before it even arrives, like when you smell coffee and suddenly you need it. Your goal is to build that craving for the new habit. Not by suffering, but by making the loop satisfying. Now, here's the turning point. In The Power of Habit, there's a concept that changes everything: keystone habits. These are habits that, once installed, start upgrading everything else. Like a single domino that knocks down 10 more. Consistent sleep, daily movement, journaling, planning your day, family dinner, making your bed, for some people. Not because the habit is magical, but because it changes how you see yourself and it reduces chaos. And less chaos means fewer cues that trigger your bad loops. So if you don't know where to start, start with a keystone habit. Sleep routine. Walk every day. Write a 2-minute plan. Drink water first thing. It sounds too simple. But simple is what survives. And survival is what builds identity. Now, I'll show you the golden rule of habit change, how to design your environment so discipline becomes optional, and the one ingredient that keeps habits alive when life gets messy. So here's the question that decides whether your new habit becomes permanent, or whether it dies the moment life gets stressful. What happens on the day you don't feel like it? Because that day always comes. You get tired. You get sick. You get busy. You get disappointed. You get distracted. And that's when most people think the solution is to try harder. But the power of habit teaches something more realistic, almost surgical. It's often called the golden rule of habit change. Keep the cue. Keep the reward. Change the routine. That rule matters because your brain doesn't want a brand new life. It wants the same emotional outcome it already knows how to get. So your job isn't to become a different person overnight. Your job is to build a new route to the same emotional reward. Now let's talk about the real superpower, environment. Because willpower is a candle. Environment is electricity. If your environment supports the habit, you barely need motivation. If your environment fights the habit, you'll be starting over, forever. So ask yourself, what does my environment make easy? What does my environment make automatic? If your phone is on your desk, the environment makes distraction easy. If your snacks are visible, the environment makes snacking easy. If your running shoes are hidden, the environment makes movement hard. So you flip it. Make the good habit obvious. Make the bad habit inconvenient. This is not cheating. This is intelligence. Because your brain follows the path of least resistance. So build a better path. Here are a few simple switches that work ridiculously well. Put your book on your pillow in the morning so you can't miss it at night. Charge your phone outside your bedroom. Keep a water bottle where you usually procrastinate. Lay out workout clothes before you sleep. Open your notes before you open social media. Tiny changes in environment create huge changes in behavior because they change the cues. And when cues change, loops change. Now, there's one more piece that the power of habit highlights, and it's the piece people underestimate: belief. Not motivational belief like, I'm amazing. Real belief like, even if I mess up, I can come back. Because habits don't die from one failure. They die from the meaning you attach to the failure. One skipped day is normal, but when you say, I always fail, you turn it into an identity. So you need a rule for the bad days. Here's one that works. Never miss twice. If you fail today, your only job is to show up tomorrow. Not perfectly. Just show up. Because the brain doesn't need perfection to automate a habit. It needs repetition. And repetition survives through forgiveness. Now I want to bring back Evan, the student from earlier, because his story didn't become perfect. It became real. A month after Evan started his new system, he had a rough week. A test went badly. He felt behind. He got into an argument at home, and the old cue came back. Discomfort. The pull toward scrolling felt stronger than ever. One night, he gave in. He scrolled for 2 hours. He went to bed with that old feeling in his chest. I ruined it. But then he remembered the new rule. Not be perfect. Just don't miss twice. So the next day, he made the habit smaller. He didn't try to study for 3 hours. He didn't try to become a superhero. He set a timer for 5 minutes. Just 5. And when the discomfort came, he did his reset. breath. Breath. What is the next tiny step? He completed the 5 minutes. Then he did 5 more. And that day wasn't impressive. But it was something more important. It was proof that his identity was changing. Because the old Evan would have said, "I failed, so I'm done." The new Evan said, "I stumbled, so I return." That is belief. And belief is what keeps the loop alive long enough to become automatic. Now, let's turn all of this into a clear blueprint for building a new habit from scratch. 1. Choose a habit, not 10. 1. 2. Define a clear cue. Use after brushing teeth, after breakfast, after I sit at my desk. 3. Set the routine ridiculously small. 2 minutes, 1 page, 10 push-ups, 5 lines. Small is not weak. Small is sustainable. 4. Pick an immediate reward. Tea, music, stretch, shower. Train your brain to crave the loop. 5. Shape your environment. Make the cue obvious. Make the routine easy to start. Make the bad habit harder to reach. 6. Use the never miss twice rule. Bad days are allowed. Quitting is not. And here's the final layer, the one that makes habits last for years. Tie the habit to identity. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to run," say, "I'm becoming someone who keeps promises." Instead of, "I'm trying to study," say, "I'm becoming someone who respects my future." Because identity turns discipline into self-respect. And when a habit becomes self-respect, it stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling like who you are. So let me ask you something. Honestly, what is the habit you keep waiting to start? The one you swear you'll do when life calms down. The one you'll do when you feel motivated. The one you'll do when the timing is right. What if the timing never becomes right? What if the only way to create the life you want is to build it in the middle of chaos? One loop at a time. One cue. One routine. One reward. And if you want to start today, here's the simplest challenge I can give you. Pick a habit so small it feels almost stupid, and do it for 14 days. Not because 14 days is magic, but because 14 days is enough to prove something, that you can keep a promise to yourself. And that proof changes everything. If this helped you, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what habit are you building? Thank you for staying with me until the end, and I'll see you in the next video.